Divorce lawyers of Reddit. What is the most insane, evil, funny, dumb way a spouse has tried to screw the other? Friend was going through divorce from insane husband. He had been texting her pics of the gun he bought and threatening her. Police were called. Nothing they could do, because it was only a picture. He was staying with a secret girlfriend at this point. She allowed him to go get his stuff from the house. She was scared to go back in the house alone. I went with her. First red flag was he had changed the locks. So we waited for a locksmith to open the house and change the locks again. Well, when the door opens, we noticed all of the furniture was gone. So we carefully went upstairs in search of her cats. The entire second floor was empty. No cats. No furniture. Even her clothes were gone. Come to find out, he hired a moving company to pack and take everything. Even the food in the fridge. Finally found the cats. He had taken them to another vet in town and put them up for boarding under his sister's name, thinking she would not be able to find them. He was finally forced to disclose what happened to her possessions. He had them taken to a storage unit far away from the home. I can't believe I'm saying this, but relative to the amount of animal abuse and the rest of this thread, I'm glad he didn't try to kill the cats. I 100% expected the cats to be euthanized. Anyone reading this, if someone you are not getting along with is coming back to get stuff from your house, you can ask the police to come out to witness. That should help keep you safe, and they can arbitrate disagreements. If the person gets hostile, they will physically remove them from the house for you. The one personal instance and couple of instances I was there when a friend needed to do this, the police were really nice about everything. It's free and it'll keep your property safe. I work at dispatch. We do escorts, civil standbys all the time. You wait in your car around the block. We meet you there, follow you over, and mediate if necessary. Keep things civil. Divorce lawyer here. Spouse had been out of the house for weeks. She waited until he was on a business trip, came into the house, turned on all of the faucets, plugged the drains, turned off the furnace, and left. It was -10 degrees. He came back 5 days later. The house was ruined. The water froze and cracked the foundation. I'm guessing no insurance. Or insurance didn't cover a deliberate act of damage, or something. With it being a deliberate act of an insured on the policy, she would still have been considered an insured by the definition in most policies. Yeah. I'm thinking claim denied. In AZ, if a spouse intentionally ruins communal property, then they actually violate a state statute designed to do that, and she could be arrested and sued for the damage. It sucks to lose a house in that way, but really makes negotiations go quick. Had a client whose wife wanted him out of the house. I told him not to leave. Just move to a different bedroom for the time being, because once he was out, the chances of him ever getting back in were slim. He texted his wife and told her he was staying in the house. She called back and left a VM that she wanted him out, and if he wasn't out soon, she would start taking out her unhappiness on the children, and would remind the children that mommy was being mean to them, because daddy wouldn't leave. 101 on how to lose custody. You bet I played it for the mediator and judge. What was the result? I represented a guy who was on his second marriage. His first wife passed away from cancer. He and his kids were obviously devastated. My client was a pretty sensitive guy with a big heart. His second wife could be very charming, which was why he fell for her, but it was all a facade. Anyway, to make a long story about a lengthy divorce short, my client met a very kind and affectionate woman during his case. They really hit it off and were basically engaged, even though his divorce was far from over. The fiancé started having health problems and was diagnosed with a form of terminal cancer. Somehow the second wife found out about this and tried to use the cancer diagnosis against my client in court. She developed this crazy theory that my client had killed his first wife by giving her cancer, and that he was doing the same thing to his fiancé. The second wife's attorney, who was quite good, refused to be a party to it. The attorney never addressed the argument in court and didn't even ask the second wife any questions about it during testimony. Rather, the attorney informed the judge that the second wife wished to address the court directly about an issue. The judge allowed her to do so. In a highly irregular move, the second wife told her crazy conspiracy theory to the judge, adding that she was certain my client had tried to give her cancer at some point as well. I wish I had an artist's rendering of the scene, capturing the second wife's crazy eyes, her attorney's look of shame, embarrassment, the judge's look of confusion, ennui, and my look of awe-inspired disgust. Poor guy though, having two loved ones get terminal cancer, sad face. I actually know of someone whose first wife died of cervical cancer. He later remarried and then she died of cervical cancer also. Turned out he was carrying HPV from first wife and basically gave his second wife cancer. Guy was devastated. He never knew he had it. Don't stop there. How did it play out? Who got what? The OP's client got his revenge by giving his ex cancer, obviously. This one hits close to home, because it happened between my parents. We had a family friend who was a lawyer, and my parents agreed that he would be the lawyer for both of them as a mediator. So, as the assets were being divided, my dad got absolutely slammed. She was going to get the house, cars, half his retirement, and an insane amount of alimony, to the tune of like $2,500 a month for the rest of her life. My dad has a good job as a municipal employee, but that was probably 70%ish of his paycheck. Turns out that my mom and the family friend actually conspired to rip my dad off and make it seem like that's what a divorce settlement looks like. And she was going to kick back more money under the table after the dust had settled. Dad just didn't know how these things worked. So, after some convincing, he finally went out and got his own lawyer. He got a very fair divorce settlement after that. Mom still to this day can't understand why we don't talk to her much. That other attorney could be disbarred for that. Should be slipping Jimmy back at it. My uncle's ex tried to work it in that she would get half of whatever my grandmother would leave him when she passes. Joke's on her. My grandmother is passing over her kids, not maliciously. My uncle is very well off, and so is my mom, and leaving everything to my brother and me. Oh, also tried to get sole custody of both of their children, who are in their 20s. What would custody mean there? Like, you have to visit at least 5 times a year and be here for Christmas? Maybe the ability to claim them as a dependent on their taxes. I'm going to school to be a vet assistant. My teacher is a veterinarian. She told us on Monday she's had clients bring their animals in to be euthanized so their spouse couldn't have them. SMDH? Is it even freaking illegal? Yes, it is. It isn't ethical though. Most vets take their oath seriously. Can vets refuse? Absolutely. They have an ethical responsibility to do no harm to animals. I work for a divorce attorney now, but the craziest thing came to my attention when I worked for the prosecuting attorney. This couple was breaking up and Mr. left the house. Mrs. went to work the next morning as usual. When she returned home in the evening, she found Mr. had been to the house and removed his clothing and belongings as she expected. What she didn't expect was that he had also gorilla glued her belongings together. He glued the TV remote to the table, the phone to its cradle, the couch pillows to the couch, and even glued the vacuum cleaner to the carpet. She called the police and reported this as property damage. The police went with her through the house documenting dozens of items glued to various things. But 4 days she was discovering random things and she would call to amend or update her report. My good oven mitts were glued to the wall, or he glued the effing sheets together in the linen closet. I've seen people do and say really awful things to each other, but that was diabolical. Wow, that's, creative. Smart of her to call the police though. Documenting this up front helps. I can't stop laughing at the absurdity of it all. Just imagining she kept finding random things glued together for weeks afterwards. It's hilariously evil. Weeks? It might be years. When was the last time you needed to move a picture frame? I mean, under the circumstances, I probably checked picture frames pretty early on. How about a wholesome, insane one? I know, but this was told to me by my mom regarding the divorce she got from my dad. They couldn't settle on an alimony amount. Mom and her lawyer came in with a number. Dad countered with a number. They couldn't agree, because my dad thought my mom should get twice the amount in alimony she was asking for, and my mom didn't want my dad to give her that much money for a month. It took months for them to settle on a figure that appeased both of them. Even then, my mom puts aside the extra above which she wanted in case my dad ever has a financial emergency, and my dad puts aside the extra she didn't want in case my mom ever has a financial emergency. The funny thing is, they don't know the other is putting the money aside for the other. My mom told me about her emergency stash, and my dad told my brother about his emergency stash. Bro, and I discussed it while talking about what nut jobs our parents are. Okay, I'm leaving this thread while the warmth from this post is making me feel better after reading about all the crazy people. Totally feeling the same here. I was just about to leave reading the comments section and this was the final one. A great one to finish on. Love that story. Aww. What caused the divorce? Out of curiosity. My dad had had a girlfriend for the past 15 plus years. My mom knew, but the agreement was they would divorce after my brother graduated high school. My parents had been together since they were 7th and 8th graders, so honestly I think at some point it just became habit. It was a very amicable divorce. Both are remarried and I get along with all four of my parents. Worked at an airport. Big burly guy brings an ugly-ass dog in a crate to the counter. He is clearly misty-eyed. Turns out wife got the dog in the divorce and he has to send it to her, and she told him as soon as she gets it she is putting it down. He asks if he can have some time with the dog before the flight, so they go out in the grass and they both roll around in the grass. Dog's tail just wagging away, not knowing anything about his future. The guy puts him back in the crate, drops him off the counter, says thanks, and then just walked out head down and just looking crushed. That was 30 years ago and I still remember it like it was yesterday. Who the frick does that? I don't know. How can you go from loving somebody to that much hatred? So much so to murder an innocent dog? What half? I've seen a guy get a surprise reunion with his dog that his ex-girlfriend took. She said that she had to give it away because her new place wouldn't allow pets. So the dog was basically long lost or even dead in his mind. I didn't know the backstory at the time, just that he hadn't seen it in a long time. I'm pretty sure I would have teared up if I did, but I was just standing there oblivious. Like damn, dude must have really loved the dog. He was ugly, crying, and the dog's tail was like a helicopter blade while it licked all his tears out. Evidently, it happens quite a bit. An ex lying about the pet to hurt the other. Super messed up either way. Divorce lawyer. Accusing their former spouse of forcing them into prostitution. Text messages revealed they were actually just swingers. She also admitted to lying in order to make him burn. I can't wait to leave my practice area. That, seems like a super illegal accusation. The day she wasn't held in contempt was a sad day for our justice system. It makes it difficult for true victims of trafficking to be taken seriously. Have you ever had someone held in contempt, charged with perjury for lying? I always thought it was a serious issue growing up in law school, but in practice I have never had a court or prosecutor take it seriously. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please smash the like button and leave a comment which story you liked the most. Subscribe and hit the bell notification for updates on our latest videos. And don't forget to check the links in the description box for more awesome content.